What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here today to talk a little football. Playoff football market chit chat. Wanted to wait a couple days to make this video because I kind of wanted to see how prices fell out as we moved into the week. So I'm recording this Thursday evening. You are watching it most likely Friday sometime. Let's just fire right in. Like, comment, sub. Burrow. What are we doing with him? I did a live stream on Wednesday night. I got this question a ton. What are you doing with Joe Burrow? Now, I don't own any Joe Burrow, so it's an easy decision for me. I could talk about what I think I would do if I had some, but I'm curious, you as the audience, boys and girls, if you own Joe Burrow, how are you approaching this? Are you selling? Are you holding? Are you selling some? Rolling dice? How are you handling it? Personally, how I would handle it is I would hope I would have more than one card, and Flipping Steve and I talked about this on Wednesday, and try to move off some of the lower end stuff and maybe hold the better stuff. Depending on how he plays this weekend, there's a good chance that he won't dip hard or maybe not dip at all. It just really kind of depends on how the game goes. If they lose some 50 to 45 shootout and he looks really good doing it, he might not dip. It could be a Juan Soto situation like we saw at the end of the baseball season. If they get hammered and he looks bad or whatever, maybe he takes a little bit of a hit. We're going to talk about Herbert in a minute. His stuff is actually dipping just a little bit. So I was interested. I pulled Burrow up from the beginning of the season until now. And I'm starting with base, and then we'll talk about silvers and optics. And I just use Prism and Optic as kind of our guidelines here, as just general market indicators for Burrow. So the interesting thing, if you bought him back before the season started, if you bought him at the National, $430 for a PSA 10 Prism. Today, on the cusp of the AFC Championship, you made $3.75. They're going for $433.75. Oops. A lot of factors for this. Is it, the hate on base happened and it caused it to dip and then it caused it to spike back up again? I think it's more just a general trend that it's not the best idea to carry football cards in the season. You could have, this is a classic. And once again, looking backwards, I have perfect information, who knew at the time. But you could have sold this right before the season started for around 400. Let's just call it $400. You could have bought it anywhere in early December for mid twos, to lower than mid twos, 250 to 220. I think it got all the way down to 197. Actually, it got all the way down to 185. That's one sale, but let's just call it 200. You could have easily bought this card for $200 for about a week to week and a half period. It is currently back up to $430, but it literally took him getting all the way to the AFC Championship game for that to happen. And you can see his optic base follows the exact same trend. Here's the numbers down here. Literally a 0% change from the beginning of the season. Now, if you look at the last 30 days, a little different story. Let's just click this button real quick. And you can see over the last 30, it is up 60%. 272 to 434. And if you go back a little bit further, you'd be up even more on it, depending on exactly when you went back like 45 days, you'd probably be up pretty good there. But in general, and I'm going to stick to this, I don't know what's going to change me on it. I really think, unless it's like a super low dollar flyer, I'm sure people did really well holding Cooper Kupp stuff in the season, but you probably paid pennies for it. If it's a legitimately high dollar player, other than maybe Brady, I don't think it makes sense to carry it in the season. Just sell it and rebuy it back in the middle of the season if you really like the player. Let's look at his higher end stuff. Silvers, hollows, etc. Now, these, to be fair, did not dip as hard. His silver in the summer, this was August 9th, went for $2,900. It is currently going for $3,800. This is a Silver Prism PSA 10. In the middle here, you see a September sale, $2,200. 2750, 2800, and this is only a couple cards, 2400, 2200, and then it starts going back up again. But, you could have sold before the season started for 2900 and maybe bought it back for around 25 conservatively, made a little 400 depending on what you're into it for initially. Sold it for 3K before the season started, bought it back for 2500, and then now you'd have it for 3,800. Last sale, 3,800. Last two sales were actually 3,800. Now, over the season, 31%, you're actually up on this card. So maybe for the higher end stuff, you roll the dice and you carry it into season. sell the lower end stuff in base if you're a buyer on a particular player. That could be a play too. And that's kind of what my approach would be right now. If I was holding base and lower level Burrow stuff, I personally think I would be moving it right now before the game and holding on to the nicer stuff. Take my profits on the lower stuff, limit my risk on the Burrow portfolio as a whole, getting money out of Burrow on the lower end stuff, and then carrying a couple nicer things into the future and beyond for if his career continues on the trajectory that it seems to be on. And Burrow is very impressive. I've come around on him a lot this year. Let's look at Josh Allen. This is an example of how your season ends. This is what I'm now going to start referring to as the Juan Soto factor. Juan Soto famously at the end of last season in baseball, I was desperately waiting for a dip. He went absolutely nuclear the last 30 days of the season, and his prices have soared the entire offseason. Josh Allen, we just watched literally one of the best NFL playoff games in the history of the NFL playoffs. He lost, he's eliminated, he's going home, but he played out of his mind, and his cards are actually going up since the loss. Now, does that hold? We don't know, but to this point, this is over the last 14 days. Look at the green. Optic base up 20%. Optic hollow up 4%, just slightly, but not dipping. Optic hollow 9 up 30%. Prism silver 9 flat. PSA 10 Prism silvers are like pop 20 on 2018, so I didn't really bother looking at them. I looked at the 9s. Has basically stayed flat. Prism base PSA 10 up 36% in the last 2 weeks. That's with him losing, and it's trending up. That is which one's Prism base? Prism base. That's this blue line, purple line right here. You can see since the loss, it's actually continued to go up. There's a little dip and then right back up again. So Josh Allen is actually trending in the correct direction, because he had a good loss, if that's such a thing. Yeah, obviously he got eliminated, but he looked extremely good doing it, and that's the last memory everyone is going to have in their heads of this player. So I don't know if we see a big Josh Allen dip in this upcoming offseason. And I think we could see the same thing potentially with Burrow. But I would still be wanting to take my profits out of the lower end stuff. Base cards, just look at what happened here. If we go back 180 days again on the Burrow base, how much that dipped in season, even the optic base, compared to his hollow and his silver. Did not dip that much. Moving right along, let's look at Mahomes. Mahomes in the AFC Championship again. I'm sure you're crushing it if you bought Mahomes before the season started and getting ready to cash out right now. Well, not really. His price before the season started was $76.50. It did jump. Well, there's a couple sales here, but looks like it was around $8K. That's a $9,500. I don't know if I buy that one. Let's just call it around a little over $8K. Today, last two sales, $7,800. However, these two particular sales, I am not so sure about. These are them right there, and you look at the old bidding history here, something doesn't quite look right here. You can see it got to 6,500 legitimately, and then a little tomfoolery comes into play. And the other one that sold, they sold back to back within minutes of each other, the exact same thing. It does look like someone tried to bid 7,200 on this one. Holy eBay feedback. I have never seen that much eBay feedback on an account in my life. Wow. At least as a buyer. But then you could see some nonsense happened here and went over the top of it. So 7K-ish seems like the real comp on this card right now. So even though he won last week, it did go up a little bit. Actually, it went from 7K. I'm going to call it 7,500 as the current number on this card, not 8. I do not believe these 8 comps. So it went from 76.50 down to 7, and I'm going to call it 7,500 because splitting hairs there a little bit. But so he's actually kind of down or flat essentially since the season started. This shows he's up 2%, but once again, I'm not buying that that's a real number. And his optic hollow is actually down 20%. Since the season started. Same thing here. He bought over the summer, went up a little bit at the beginning of the season, then he had his mid-season dip. This is another perfect example. You could have sold this card at the National for, let's just call it conservatively 8K to keep the math simple. In the middle of the season, these were going for under 7,000, 67, 66, 65. $100, and now they're back up to 7.8 now. And once again, that's my whole point with football, at least on the quarterback side of things, is find me a player it makes sense to carry into the season that is not named Tom Brady. I just don't know that it exists. Unless someone is so undervalued, if you're talking about like prospecting quarterbacks, I think that's a different story. If you were talking about guys that have baked in expectations, I just don't think it makes sense to carry these guys in the season. Let's look at Rodgers here. I just did a short 7-day span on this one. I was curious to see if his stuff took a little bit of a price dip. It did a little bit. 10% drop across the board. This is his PSA 10 Topps paper and his PSA 10 Topps Chrome. Topps Chrome dropped $625, 10% decrease. The paper dropped $100, 10% decrease there. Pretty low pop on the Chrome at $240. We'll see where this goes. A lot of it's going to come down to what decision he makes in the offseason. Does he want to stay there? Does he want to go somewhere else? If he gets traded, does it see a bump from that? If he stays there, does it see a bump from that? Does the shine come off Rodgers a little bit after another playoff failure? These are all the questions that I have regarding Aaron Rodgers, but interesting to see his stuff slightly ticking down. Brady. We talked about Brady a bunch. Once again, I'm looking at the last 7 days worth of data here because I just wanted to see how the market reacted since this past weekend. So this has sales prior to that game and after that game. And we have his PSA 9 Bowman base, PSA 10 Bowman Chrome, and PSA 9 base Bowman Chrome. Bowman Chrome PSA 10, one sale, up 14%. And that happened prior to the game, I believe. They played on Saturday. I don't know if that sale happened before the game or after the game. But regardless, there has not been a sale since that one, which was a couple days ago. The base PSA 9 is down a couple percent, and the Chrome 9 is down a couple percent. But when I say a couple, literally 2. So it's not like his stuff's crashing back down, even though he lost. If we go back 180 days on him, just for the hell of it, and kind of see things where things level out, he is actually up. But Brady is not the norm. He is the exception. Let's look at Herbert. I went back 30 days on Herbert because that takes us back to into season a little bit and kind of see what his market has done since the end of the football season. 30 days takes us back to right after Christmas. So there's still a week left in the NFL season, and they were still live because they got eliminated right at the very end. In general, he is trending down. PSA 10 silver, down 30%. PSA 9 silver, down 15%. PSA 10 base has actually stayed flat, surprisingly enough. Optic base, down 36%. Optic hollow, down 35%. For my purposes, I would love to see Herbert keep sliding down. He is one that I am 100% interested in buying a dip on. And my angle here is these are things that I would love to have in my case for the National. Herbert silver PSA 9s, optic hollow silver or optic hollow PSA 9s, stuff like that. I don't know that I want to lay out 3K for a 10, but a 9 for $400. I don't know if 400 is where I want to get into that card at, but I am at least interested in seeing how far that one goes down. The pop count on this 10 is very skewed. So it makes it a lot lower pop compared to the 9. So there's going to be a larger gap there between 10s and 9s. I'm not sure on the hollow. I didn't pull the optic hollow PSA 9. Herbert, to me, as of right now, is the most interesting one because his prices are actually trending down. And my prediction, and once again, I've talked about this before with Steve and a few others, by the time we get to the National and last year's National, the reason why I keep saying the National for this is football was so hot at the National. Even though it wasn't necessarily the peak of prices for these players, it was the most liquid thing there by a mile. Everyone was looking for football. I have a feeling this year's National, the hottest names will be Burrow, Herbert, Allen. Mahomes would probably be on that hot list pretty much no matter what he does, but if he would win another Super Bowl, that could potentially take him to the next level. Brady is always going to be in demand, but of the young guns, the guys up and coming, to me, Burrow, Herbert, and Allen are going to be guys people are all over on. And probably someone from this year's rookie class will get a little bit of hype as a project for heading in the next season, kind of like we've seen before. But curious for your thoughts and comments down below. I think everyone would be a buyer at Herbert at a certain point. We'll see. I'm excited for this weekend. We will see what happens. There should be some excellent games. The Chiefs-Bengals game is going to be the main event, and that game has a lot of impact on the sports card market. If Burrow wins and goes to the Super Bowl, look out. His stuff could really fly. Will it hold? I don't know. Traditionally, what we've seen in the past with a lot of these superstars, LeBron, even Mahomes, the only one that has been exempt from this so far has been Brady. When they win the title, their cards actually go down because so much supply hits the market. Everyone's looking to dump in a 24-hour period. And sometimes there's a really good buying opportunity like the day after they win. Sounds crazy, I know, but you can go back and look at the data after some of these guys won Super Bowls and NBA championships, and their values do not hold much beyond like that initial euphoria. Same thing happened with Giannis. He won, his stuff spiked for like 48 hours and then pulled right back real fast. So like, comment, subscribe. Catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.